Well, good morning, everyone. I am really, really excited about this morning. I just want you to know if you are a guest today and you found us on the website, I am not Scott Wood, but I am married to him, and he is a happy man today because he went up to Eugene to be with his brother. He got to go to the Oregon Duck game last night, and unlike the other game that he went to in Texas where they lost, last night they won. So he is very, very happy. So I'm really happy for him. He's having an awesome time, and he sent me long texts expressing his love to you. So I won't read them, but he loves you. He loves you very much. We love you. There's so much to say today, and I just want to tell you, there's basically three things that I'm saying. First of all, we, CV Church, has a unique calling. A unique calling. We're not like any other church. We are unique. Secondly, we all have to have a church family. God has put us in a family so that we can grow. And thirdly, we have to be constantly growing. So that's what we're going to talk about. Last Sunday, if you were here, you got to hear our supervisor, Dennis Easter, and he was awesome, wasn't he? He was so good. He was so powerful. And I was so excited to have him because he's only been here one other time. So we've grown so much since he came. I had hoped that the next time he got here, the renovation would have been done. So he'll have to come back because the renovation is going to be done before I die. And as he was resting in Scott's office, he had a word from God that he shared with us. And it was so affirming. And what the word was, and as he shared it was, he said he was sitting, and he is recovering, if any of you weren't here from open heart surgery. So he was resting, and as he was sitting in the office, he said that God just spoke to him. There's a special grace on the CV Church for those who are finding their way back from brokenness. And I was just like, that's just such a confirmation. I mean, we all know that's who we are. That's what's been happening. In fact, that's what's been happening from the day that we came here, which I think was 28 years ago. And I was thinking about that with his word to us, and then that I remember the morning that we first came. And Scott was sharing, here's this brand new pastor, and he was saying, I've come to do and to be a transparent church. I don't know if any of you remember that, but those were his words. We're going to be transparent here. We're not going to play church. We're not going to play games. If we struggle, we're going to be honest about it. If we're not where we think or wish we would be, we're going to be open about that. And that's what we have done. So all along, we have been making our way back from brokenness. And I think we're in a really good place. But it's not done yet. It's not done yet. So I felt like his word was just a really good setup for us for today, and then for our Vision Day, which is going to be December 1st. Because the thing is, there's a particular impact that we are to have as a church, a particular contribution that we are to make. That's because of, first of all, the calling that is on Scott as our pastor shepherd. God's been doing things in his whole life, teaching him things, shaping him so that he could lead us in a particular way. We have an overall purpose, but there is going to be a unique way that it plays out for us. But it's also about the calling that lies in your hearts and how God has called you here because it coincides with the calling in our hearts as leaders. It doesn't fight, it fits. And it's all about us finding then the fulfillment of that calling together. It's not the building, and I really want this building to change, and it is changing, and I hope the renovation is done before I die. But it's not the building, it's not the location, it's the people. We are not like any other church. Have you noticed? I don't know if you've been to other churches in a while. We're not like them. We're not supposed to be like them. We are unique because each one of you is unique. I mean, each one of you is a one of a kind. So that means that CV Church is a one of a kind. So point number one, CV Church has a unique calling, as do each of you. All of us together have this particular calling, and each one of you is important for us to fulfill and answer that call. We are a family with a special assignment. Your own biological family, you have no choice about. You had a choice about this family, in a sense. And you actually were called to this family. But from the moment you are born, the number one need is a family. When a person becomes born again, the number one need is a church family. A baby without a family is an orphan. A Christian without a church family is an orphan as well. No one has solid, consistent growth if they're just related to like the one church, the ethereal church, where they pick and choose the parts that they like. I mean, don't we all love that? It's like, I don't like that person. I don't really want to hang out around them. I don't want to hear that message. I don't. And all of those things are part of the real church, which God calls us to. It's our relationship, it's our engagement in the real local church that causes real growth. It's really simple. God calls us to a family so that we can grow and we can impact others. And that's the title of this teaching today, Others. It's all about others. A very important mentor in our lives as we were becoming pastors and growing and learning and all of that was Bill Hybels. And this quote comes from him: "There's nothing like the local church when the local church is working right." And that's just so true. So here's what our church purpose is, CV Church. This is what we are all about. CV Church family exists to develop fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ by connecting them with Father God, the local church, those we can serve, and people who don't yet know Jesus. It's all of that. And today, this is so exciting because I have asked 6 people who are leading a ministry in this church to share their story, their sense of calling, their sense of having to answer this need that they recognized. Maybe what God used to get their attention, what need their hearts and minds have been drawn to. In some cases, it's just simply, I can't stand this any longer. I have to do something. And my goal today is that as you listen to them, that you might sense that they are you. This is not like, oh, isn't that cool? Brian and Karen are leading a ministry. No, what it is this is CV Church, and you are part of CV Church. This is your family, and our family is leading a marriage ministry, and our family is leading a foster ministry, and our family is leading, and on and on and on. That's what our family's doing. And so we want to be a part. The cool thing is that they're stepping up and they're being an example to us. And as you hear their story, some of them were fearful, some of them were timid, some of them felt and still feel ill-equipped. They don't have the gifts to be the leader. They're not leaders. And yet they are leading. So they're being wonderful examples for us because we all feel those things. And so to watch us take those steps, that encourages us and inspires us. We want you to find a place of service here that fits the unique way that God has created you and designed you. This is one of the things that I say in 301, and everyone, it's like it dawns on them as we say it. CV Church needs my ministry. We always say, oh, don't say need. But we need everyone getting involved in ministry. All of you together are the one body of Christ, and each of you is a separate and necessary part of it. And Colossians 4:17, this verse is so powerful and so simple. Be sure to carry out the ministry the Lord gave you. Not the Lord gave me, Kathe. Not the Lord gave me, anybody on the staff. The Lord gave you, Heather. The Lord gave you, Steve. The Lord gave you, Matt. Be sure to carry out the ministry the Lord gave you. So you get to listen now to 6 people. First of all, I'm going to invite Bob Church to come up, and he's going to share about the Crew, which is an amazing ministry in the church. And then Roberta and then Polly will be coming, and Roberta will be sharing about small groups, and Polly will be talking about the impact. And the whole point is just for you to listen. They didn't want to do this. That's where it started. So.
Good afternoon. I'm not used to being at second service. I'm finding a whole bunch of new family that I've really never met. Really cool. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, I'm Bob, and I'm a faithful. Well, never mind. I'm really blessed to be here representing the many of you who have a heart for serving. From the parking lot attendants to the greeters, the volunteers are family handling family business, and we are a blessed family. The chairs in here, they have friendship cards, pens, bookmarks, even tissues, because a faithful volunteer comes in every week and goes through and reloads the chairs. The lighting system in here, we have a new lighting system and a video system. It was installed and it's run by volunteers. The Crew is a team committed to serving Jesus and what he said in Matthew 20:28. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. So the Crew works behind the scenes to bless our family and guests. We paint, we do repairs, we patch the parking lot, whatever we see or are asked to handle. The Crew was birthed from Marvin Osherman, and I used to stop by here, many of you have, and seen him sitting in the office, and he would be stuffing the bulletins for you. And even in his 80s, he knew that there's nothing like the church working right when we are serving others. I used to walk around here, and I would see things that were neglected or broken, and I used to think, boy, they really need to fix that. And God finally said, why don't you fix it? But you don't have an excuse. You go do it. And so I felt God calling me to do something. And I asked our leaders to help me build a team to meet family needs. And they agreed. Acts 4 says the early church shared everything, and no one lacked for anything. And that is our target. It only requires our time and talents and discovering our shape. And if you're a guest here, shape means finding your spiritual giftings, examining our hearts, identifying our abilities, combining that with our personalities and our experience. It does not require proficiency, just willingness and commitment. The essence of the crew is service, fellowship, relationship, and teamwork. The project becomes secondary. That's a given. And serving side by side has become more like a small pop-up group. We can be fixing a door while praying together for a personal healing. For me, true fellowship happens at a deeper level when we are working together beyond our Sunday best. I once heard a mentor share about family responsibility. He said, a little kid grows up loved and nurtured, but as they mature, they are asked to cut the lawn, take out the garbage, do family chores, because that's family responsibility and family business. Personally, I remember pushing a lawnmower around, hand mower, and I hated it. But I enjoyed it when the neighbors said that the yard looked good. It's really simple. Our church works right when we all take responsibility and ownership. 38 of you stepped up and you painted this room in 1 week. You saved the church $6,000 to $8,000. You remodeled the foyer. You installed this new lighting. And it's a funny thing that everyone who serves gets blessed beyond what they're giving. The crew has exceeded what I anticipated. There's been so much production, but so much more connection. Yeah, we take care of business, but as we work, we laugh, we share, we eat breakfast burritos. They're good. And yes, we pray together. And as a side note, none of us can ever try to quantify our service because Jesus he's number one, and so you're putting yourself into that, and good luck with that. The crew has grown to many sources, men, women, and teens. And I could stand here and read a list of names, but that would exceed my time. Plus, they prefer really not to be acknowledged. They serve for one reason, to further God's kingdom. So without using their names, there's been slides going on, and if you recognize them, you don't really need to thank them. You can give them a hug, or better yet, you can join them. And I would leave you with this. It's a text from a crew member that I received last week. Fellowshipping and working with our crew is uplifting, purposeful, and productive. We are all beneficiaries of God's perfect will as He guides us task to task. Personally, beyond the blessings of fellowship and productivity, and I love this part, I really enjoy Sundays when I walk around the campus and see the benefits to our church family. I enjoy knowing we got to work, serve together to improve for God's glory and our church home. Lots of love. The crew members are not sideline Christians. They are dedicated. You have friends cards. I'm hoping that we have a lot of upcoming events, a lot of needs and opportunities over the holiday season. And if you want to write crew on there and put your contact information, I will contact you. And we only ask for a couple hours, but you can make a world of difference, and you can bless those people that are sitting around you and the ones we haven't met yet. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roberta Ray, and as Kathe said, I'm currently overseeing the small group ministry here. Hi. My husband and I, we started attending here about 24 years ago, and our family had been looking for a church that fit our family. As Mindy's going to come and speak about the J127 program that we have for foster care here. And we had just first fostered and adopted our 2 sons. And so we were just looking for the church that fit our family, and it just happened to be this one. So Brad and I have been serving here in many ministries over the years, including hosting and facilitating small groups. And about 9 years ago, our church found itself without a small group ministry leader. And around that time, I started hearing and sensing that the Lord was nudging me and saying, you could lead the small group ministry. And I wanted to ignore that. Pretended that I wasn't hearing that. I had many reasons why I thought he could not be asking me. However, I finally went to Pastor Scott and spoke to him about it and told him that I thought I was being called to lead the small group ministry, and he said, get going. And so it began. So after jumping in with no true idea of how to make it happen, I attended a small group leaders conference with the few small group leaders that we had at the time. And as we started training new leaders, starting new small groups, people's lives started to change. People were telling me that after many years of resisting getting into a small group, that once they finally did, it was one of the best, most life-changing things that they'd ever done. They were growing. They had people to do life with, people to pray with them, and people that were doing life events with them. Today, we currently have 12 small groups and approximately 138 people in those groups, as well as we're possibly starting a few new groups soon. We have young adult groups, women's groups, men's groups, and mixed groups. There's a quote from Dr. Lance Wallnau that I really find true, and I want you to really hear this. And it goes like this: your moment of awakening to your calling is what produces moments and movement in the kingdom. I have found this to be very accurate. So we must all be awakened to our calling. I would like you to now hear Paul, as he shares his experience of getting involved in small group.
Good morning. So small groups are really, really important thing to me. Kathe spoke about brokenness earlier, and I think that's like the best word to describe the position I was in when we came to this church 5 years ago this October. Yeah, my whole family was, I was definitely broken, and our entire family was fragmented as a result of that. And so 5 years ago, I came, and on that one Sunday, Pastor Scott led me to the Lord. And it changed my life immediately. But right after that, I was like, okay, so what are my next steps? I don't know anything about Christianity. I wasn't even a believer before I went into the sermon, and then after I was a believer. So what are my next steps? So Pastor Scott called me like a couple days later, and he said, we have this thing called small groups, and it's like some brothers and sisters getting together and just discussing the sermon and, talking about our lives. And, I hosted at my house, and he's like, do you want to come to that? And I was like, man, that seems like a lot. I've been Christian for 2 days. I don't know. That's like a whole, it's a lot. But he had just led me to the Lord, so if he asked me to run through a brick wall at that point, I was running. So so we said yes, and we showed up at his house, very, very nervous. We walked in, didn't know anybody, and then he was just really excited and said, hey, I want you to share your testimony with everybody here. There were like 12 people here, and I was like, if you guys know my testimony, I have a lot of crazy stuff in my life that's happened. And so I was just like, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. And I was really nervous. Gave my testimony, and then there was just like complete silence. And I was like, okay, so what now? And then Dean Kirshner, a lot of you guys know Dean, and he raised his hand and he was like, hey, can I tell you something? I was like, what's up? He said, you are a really cool, really interesting dude. And we're happy to have you here. And it was really like God just reaching down and hugging me and just saying that you're home and this is where you belong. And so from that day on, we've been in that same small group. So that's been 5 years of that small group, and now we host it at our house. And the amount of growth that's just happened in our small group is amazing. We have people that were like afraid to pray out loud, like wouldn't even really pray, period, and are now like prayer warriors, praying out loud, praying at the end of every small group. We have people that were in toxic relationships and have gotten freedom from that. We've had people that have had physical healing, emotional healing, all kinds of healing in that small group. So really, we're a family here at CV Church, but our small group is like an even closer, tinier version of that family that we share our lives with. And so, for those of you guys here that don't exactly know what a small group is, it's five to 20 people basically getting together, going through the sermons every week and relating it to our own lives. So really, we're just walking through the sermons together and getting really close as a family. And so if you're new to Christianity, or you've been Christian for a long time, but you just, for some reason, you're not in a small group or you haven't gotten involved like that, I would just highly recommend taking that step to in your walk with Christ. It will give you that maturity, that next level of growth that you need. Thank you.
And so maybe it's time for you to lead a small group. I really want you to hear any kind of little nudge that may come to you today, and don't turn it off. Do listen to it. So whatever God has done in my life, it's not for my benefit, but for others. From the very beginning, what did God say to Adam? He said, it's not good for you to be alone. Right from the beginning, it was about others. If Adam had just been there, like doing life on his own, no woman to help him grow, he could have been very selfish, very selfish. We all need each other. Whatever we do, it's all about others. Two scriptures that really do support this are, first of all, 1 Peter 4:10. One of my, heart scriptures. Each of you has been blessed with one of God's many wonderful gifts to be used in the service of others. So use your gift well. 1 Peter 4:10. It's all about you've been given a gift. You have. And God wants you to use it for others. And then 1 Corinthians 12:7, a spiritual gift is given to you. The moment you become born again, you have a spiritual gift. It's given to each of us so that we can help each other. Those kind of verses, for any of us that have been RNCR, those kind of verses can really mess you up. Because you already live your life for others. You already try and please others. And then there's a verse like this that says it's all about giving service to others. And the point is, serving others is not the same as pleasing others. I grew up, hello, I'm a faithful follower of Jesus Christ and I struggle with codependency. I love to please others, but that's so silly because it's impossible to please others. What Jesus asks me is not to please others, but to serve others. And that anything he has done in my life, it's about serving others. It's about sharing with others. Serving others may not actually please others, because I may have to say some things that they don't really want to hear, or I may not go where they want me to go, or I may set boundaries, all kinds of things in the name of serving others. But here's the thing, Jesus said this, your attitude must be like my own, for I, the Messiah, did not come to be served, but to serve. You remember the purpose-driven book, and what was like in was it the first sentence in the book? It's not about me, right? It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about others. And that's why we grow, and that's why we change, and that's why we serve, and that's why we step up and say yes. And so I have asked now Mindy, who leads our J127 ministry, and she's going to come and share that with you. Then we're going to hear a video from Heather Wiley, who leads women and Bible studies and our luncheon and our Working with the Dream Center. We'll hear her video, and then the Millers are going to share with us why are they leading a marriage ministry. We want to know, how did God get you to do this? I guess is the question. How did you actually say yes to leading a marriage ministry? So we want to hear all about that. So welcome, Mindy.
Okay, so I'm Mindy Harrison, and I co-lead J127 with Kathe, right up here in the front. And it's our orphan and foster care ministry. The name of the ministry comes from James 1:27. I'm not nervous at all, you can tell. Pure and genuine religion in the eyes of God the Father means caring for orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. So my story with this ministry begins with the adoption of our daughter, Rosie, who's adorable, and a lot of you know her. When my husband and I first started seriously discussing adoption, he surprised me, and he said, well, we should adopt through foster care. And I was like, what? I can safely say that foster care was not even ever on my radar. I've always had a heart for adoption, but not, So I'd hear ads from Olive Crest driving home from work and about foster families, and they needed foster families, and it would just go in one ear and out the other. I always thought, people who get involved with that are braver than me, they're more spiritual than me, they're so much more capable and strong than I could ever be. So I was scared and maybe a little panicky. So my first reaction was fear, but then I wanted to adopt so badly. I was like, okay, God, if you want to do it this way, then you're going to give me what I need, and you'll see me through it. So we did it, and we became certified as foster parents in 2015. And over the course of a very bumpy couple of years, we became aware of the enormous crisis that's happening in our county. And it's just happening all around us. You would never see it if you weren't bumping up into it. And there's just a huge number of foster children in our system in LA County. It's over 30,000 kids. And so few foster families, especially good foster families. But so 30,000, just to put the number in perspective, other states have fewer than that. We have more than any other state outside of California, just in our county. We saw some of the trauma, not all of it, that kids go through in the system. They're taken away from situations where they're abused or neglected or abandoned, but then they're separated from everything and everyone they know and love, everything familiar, friends, extended family, neighborhood, their culture, their classmates, everything. So we were told the horrifying statistics of those who remain in the foster system as we're going through our training, especially for those who age out and never get a permanent home. Homelessness, teen pregnancy, victims of human trafficking, turning to drugs, ending up in prison, the numbers all go up dramatically for them when they don't get a stable home. And then we saw this firsthand with our first daughter that was placed with us, and her mother had been in the foster system. And she aged out, and she tried to look for family, and she ended up homeless with a baby. And I mean, just, we watched this and it was no longer a statistic, it was personal. And we saw the hurt and the heartbreak. But I mean, you look at it and you think, it's just so far beyond my ability to do anything, to even make a dent. What can I do? And it's so easy to just go, I can't even think about that. But now we couldn't do that anymore. So it was personal, there's no going back. So, Lord, what's next? Was the next question in my heart. We adopted our daughter. We could just say, okay, we did what we came to do. You know, we got our daughter and we're out. But I just couldn't do that. My husband couldn't do that. And so I was praying, and God placed this image on my heart that was really kind of disturbing. And it was from the movie Titanic. You know, when the ship's going down and all the rich people are getting in their lifeboats, and they're getting all their stuff in there, and they've got a few people, their family, you know, and they're getting, you know, put out in a safe little lifeboat. But there's people drowning all around them. And I looked at that image in my mind, and I went, Lord, that's me. I'm in my boat with all this extra stuff that doesn't need to be there, the busyness and that just stuff. And how can I get more people in my boat, you know? And God was saying, you know, make room. So I did what a lot of us do, and I started comparing myself to other people. A huge mistake. I looked around me, and the other foster families around me were taking in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 kids, and I went, well, I got to do that. I've got to take more kids, and that's how to help. You know, that's how I can get involved and help with the problem. And even that, it's just such a little drop in the ocean. But then, you know, God got a hold of me. He was like, no, that's not what I'm calling you to do. You've got to do what you can do so you can do it well. So I'm not called to be that foster mom who takes in kids over and over and over and over again and has a huge, big family. I don't know that I'm gifted in that area. So right now, that's not what he's calling us to do, maybe in the future. But J127, so God is only calling me to do what I'm able to do, the way he's created me. And that was very freeing to find out. So the next step, you know, what do we do now? So we created J127 with a team, and J127 exists to sound the alarm in this church community about the crisis going on all around us, just silently happening without us even knowing. And to present opportunities for all of us that we can get involved, no matter what your gifts are or your limitations are. It's not a ministry where only foster families can have an impact. Everyone can do something. And so God is answering the crisis in our county, and churches are rising up, and churches are the answer for the crisis. Our latest opportunity, oddly enough, we're partnering with Olive Crest, and they're going to come and train us today, and we're building care communities. They're communities of 6 to 8 people to wrap around families who are fostering and just help them be successful and thrive instead of just survive, because it's very tough. But we have other stuff we're doing, and if you ever want to get in touch with one of us and find out more opportunities, we have a lot. We like to partner with other ministries. Heather Wiley, who you're going to hear from, got women from women's ministry together, and they're bringing dinners to kids who have aged out of the foster system monthly and building relationships with them, and that's a blessing. And even Relate, we're sponsoring people to come, foster families to come and get help with the Relate ministry and lots of other things. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Wiley, and I'm one of the leaders for CV Women here at church. And some of the different things that are under CV Women are the Women's Spring Charity Luncheon and the Women's Bible Studies that meet throughout the week at different homes. And Operation Christmas Child, which is near and dear to my heart. We've been doing that at the church for 17 years. As well as Freedom House Ministry, a new ministry that we're partnering with J127 to be with foster kids over at the Dream Center. And I was asked how I got involved into leadership. And, you know, I started coming to this church 17 years ago. My son Caleb was a baby. And I wasn't involved in leadership at that time. other than Operation Christmas Child, but I just got involved. I mean, I served in Kids Place, served with Operation Christmas Child, and just went to things, was a part of the church, was a part of serving. And I remember the women's Bible study was starting, and I wasn't involved in leadership at all. I was young. That was about 17 years ago, and so I remember going to the first Bible study, and money was really tight back then. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm not even going to write in my book, because if I don't like it, then I can return the book and not pay the $20. And I remember within 30 seconds of hearing Beth Moore and being a part of the study, I was scribbling furiously in my book, and I have not looked back since. I can't imagine. I think we've done over 20 Bible studies since then. And so I was just a part of Bible study. I would attend CV Women events, but I wasn't leading. And, time happens, and we needed a leader for CV Women. Time happened, and we needed a leader for Women's Bible Study. And I remember Kathe really, I think, noticing in me that I could do it, and her really encouraging me in that. And then me noticing, yes, I can do this. And it just happened organically. A need arose, and I stepped in. And I'll tell you, leading CV Women has helped grow my faith probably more than anything else. Just being able to be a part of a ministry that helps so many has just been pivotal in my walk. And I appreciate the fact that Kathe and the leadership at this church, let me know that I could do it. And I appreciated them encouraging me and helping me move into this role. And so I would encourage everyone here just to get involved. Whatever your heart or passion is. Operation Christmas Child has always been a passion of mine. Since that first Bible study, Bible studies have always been a passion of mine. Helping women has been a passion of mine. And so through leading this, I'm able to work in the passions in the way that God has created me. And through that, I'm able to help others. Leading Bible study has probably been one of my favorite things to do. And we meet right in this living room, right here on this couch. My dog Max is usually sitting behind some of the ladies here. And we meet here on Mondays. We've become like a family. And it's been a really neat experience to just be a part of leading women's Bible studies. So that's what I would just encourage everyone is don't sit on the sidelines, get involved. And if you have leadership qualities where you feel that you can lead, talk to someone at church, and I'm sure they can help you plug you in where you need to be, because we're all better together, and we're all better working together. And I just really appreciate this church and the life that Kathe and the leadership have spoken into me, and it just have helped me step in this role of leadership. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. We're Brian and Karen Miller, and we are leading the Relate Marriage Ministry. It started about a year ago because we thought, we have the perfect marriage, so why not? Right? So my friend said, if you see a need, you've heard the call, and we definitely felt the need, so it was kind of easy to hear the call. But after attending 301 with Kathe, we talked a lot about how we were shaped for service and what we were called to. And even doing Purpose-Driven Life, I never really knew what my purpose was. I could see other people's purpose. I didn't really know what mine was. And but when we talked about being shaped for service, Bob talked about it earlier, but S is for spiritual gifts, H for heart, A for abilities, P for personality, and E for experiences. And we all have different shapes, and it was easy to think that that was a bad thing, that we had different shapes.
Yeah, we realized shortly after we got married that my shape was very different than her shape. And what you do with that is you like, oh my gosh, I made a big mistake. If we were the same shape, we'd be bent for each other, right? So, but what you realize over the course of time is that your shape, even though they're different, they're complementary. and they're meant to be better together.
Yeah, definitely. We got talking to Scott and Kathe about our desire to improve our own marriage and other marriages. And that got us thinking that there's not a lot of churches that offer ministry for marriage. There's not a lot of ways to improve our marriage. There's that 3,000 person mega conference that you can attend once a year, but it just felt kind of cold, and there wasn't a lot of accountability and a lot of follow-up. So that kind of led us into Relate.
And we saw that, the divorce statistics between Christian couples and non-Christian couples were shockingly very similar. Mm-hmm. So we have a real heart for improving marriage. And, when you get married, right, you have this great myth of, like, you're going to be happily ever after. So Karen was very happy. I was the knight in shining armor coming in on the stallion.
Definitely.
What she didn't realize is that shortly after that, there's a stable and a pooper scooper that comes with the knight.
Exactly.
So let's look at some marriage myths. Here we go. We think that our marital relationships will have little impact on our friendships or our spiritual life. And the next one is that most of the problems in my marriage have to do with my spouse, right? I was really good at this one. I mastered that one. And then the next one, I only have issues in my marriage, not in any other relationships. So, and then let's move on to the truths. So, and that is, the truth is putting on the new self in our work is our individual growth. So part of that is described as it's me, not we.
Yeah, ultimately, I'm selfish. We all are. I want what I want when I want it, and I have to daily lay down my cross and follow Christ and put on that new self, but sometimes it has to be hourly or minutely.
And another one is that achieving a nourishing, balanced, connected, intimate relationship with a spouse, it comes from transforming our old self into our new self. And then finally, learning who you are helps you thrive in all your relationships.
Yeah, the ultimate purpose of our Doing the Marriage ministry was not just to create lifelong marriages, but also to become people that were all more Christ-like. So we started with Fight Night. Anybody at Fight Night, that first event? All right. So it was a great event of fellowship, but also, growing. And so we've tried to keep going with that in mind with our events, of an element of fellowship and an element of growing. We're looking at doing some small groups this year too, to have a little more accountability and do something like that.
Yeah, ultimately, we found ourselves with so much extra free time that we said, what can we do? We got 3 kids with 3 schools, running 2 businesses, 6 pets, one of which was at the vet this morning.
Yeah.
So we said, we have so much free time, what could we do?
Yes. So, but when God calls, he makes a way, and so we've got a lot of exciting new events coming up. But this is how we've grown. This next slides are how we're growing. One of the ways we've learned is how to be resourceful, because I personally hate asking for help. But we've learned that when we ask people for help, we've got so many great people that they're like, yeah, whatever you need. Joanne helping with slides, Rick helping with sound, him doing our Family Feud thing. Everybody's just been so helpful, anything we've asked for. We had to be super intentional in our own marriage, growing, learning new things, and going to classes, and that spiritual attack is inevitable. On our way to Fight Night, we got in a fight, and Pastor Scott said, I should have told everybody that's what happens. And people said, oh, we didn't go to Fight Night because we got in a fight on the way, and we turned around and went back home. So it does. It's inevitable, but God is in it. I think, I'm such a hypocrite. God, are you sure you want me to do this? Because, I'm not perfect, and I want to strangle him sometimes, and he wants to strangle me sometimes. But so you still want us to do this, God? Yes, we would still want you to do it. And so it also gets us out of our comfort zone. And I love to stay in my comfort zone, and most of us do. But it's so much freeing. It's very freeing to live out what God's called you to do. It's just, I can't even express how we've said yes to the call, and I've drugged my heels a lot of the time, but yet it's so much freedom.
Excellent. We're excited about our next event that's coming up in January. It's with Jeff and Julia Woods. And Julie, we would highly encourage you to go because Julie, as a person, she's really changed her relationships because she's changed how she shows up. And she asked this question, what is the story you keep telling yourself? So all of us have these stories that we like to tell each other, right? And often our story is about our spouse, right? I had a few of those, you know. These weren't mine. These were just general ones. But you could say that
You're asking for a friend.
Yeah, I'm asking for, exactly. They aren't good with money. My spouse just doesn't care that much. They can't be trusted, right? And so let's go to the next slide. So we look to identify the problem in our marriage, right? So, and it's really this story that we make up that becomes our belief, right? Then once we believe it, we look for all this evidence to confirm what we believe, right? It's called confirmation bias, right? So once you believe something, right, then you want to be right. You don't want to be wrong. So you look for any way to prove that you're right. I was looking for the problems in my marriage relationship, right? And so I found them right there. I had lots of great stories about Karen, right? She's too emotional. She's not very rational. No matter what I do, she's not going to be happy, right? So what happens with these stories, right? These stories allow and gave me permission to be stuck, right? Because, hey, if things were going to change, why try, right? So it's really a way that we make up these stories, we believe these stories, and it gives us a reason to not try. So I came to realize that the only person I had control over was that guy, right? So I'm learning that no matter what happens, right, I can choose to show up differently. I can choose a different response, right? I can choose a different reaction. I can choose to love even if I'm not receiving love back, right? So I'm going to ask you a question. What is your story? Okay, what is the story you're telling yourself? If I said, hey, what's not going right in your life and why? Think about that real quick. How many people's answer was someone else, right? It's my boss, it's my spouse, it's my kids, it's my parents, it's, right? Most of us didn't have ourselves on that list, right? Because it's very common, right? Here's the next question. What are the stories you're telling yourself about serving at CV Church? Is it that I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too old, I'm too young, right? I'm the wrong gender, I'm the wrong ethnicity, right? I'm not a leader. Maybe they won't like me, maybe they don't need me, I'm too busy, I'm not qualified, someone else can do it better, right? I won't make a difference. We all tell ourselves these stories, and that's the same story. It allows us to stay stuck because then it's hopeless. Why try, right? So, and once we start believing that story, we look for ways to confirm we're right. See, hey, there was plenty of ushers in the parking lot this morning. There's enough singers on stage. They don't need one more, right? The youth, they don't really want to listen to anybody, right? So why show up, right? But those stories, they're keeping us stuck, and they're convincing us it's hopeless, but it's not hopeless. So let's talk about building community through serving. The reality is that in giving, we grow, right? In serving, we grow. In giving and serving, we fulfill our need to make a difference, to contribute, and to be part of something bigger than ourselves. You can make a difference. You know, Karen and I are making a difference, and it feels great to be making a difference. But you can make that difference by just lighting up someone, smiling, giving them an encouraging word. Doesn't have to be something big. I think, let's go on and look at what difference can you make. A lot of times we're like Mindy, right? Here's this ocean of kids in the system, right? How can I help 30,000 kids, right? And so we give ourselves, I can't do that, and I give them my permission, right? But what is that difference that their family is making for Rosie, right? What is that the difference they're making for Rosie's siblings and Rosie's kids, right? If she grew up in the same environment she was born into, right? The likelihood that she'd have a child with all kinds of like difficulties and drug issues and, right? It's gonna repeat itself, right? Unless you break the cycle. So instead of thinking like, oh, it has to be major, I have to help all 30,000 kids, help one kid, right? So your serving can affect one other person. And then that person can impact one other person. Then together it starts to affect our church, and then it starts to impact our community. But it all starts with a simple interaction. Community is about a group of people contributing to something that none of us could have on our own. So your marriage, your relationships, they will affect your life. They will also affect your children's life, and they will also affect your children's children and their life. At the end of the day, people will know Christ by our love, right? By how we serve one another, how we give. Marriage is one of the best relationships that God uses to accomplish changing us, right? Healthy churches will happen because of healthy marriages and healthy families and the ripple effect that blossoms out of that. Thank you very much.
Oh, such good. Such good stuff, isn't it? Do you feel encouraged and inspired? I hope you do, because that's the whole point. So, thirdly, the reason we need to grow, you heard them talking about growing, is because of others. I need to grow because of my husband. I can't stay the same. I need to change. I need to grow because of my kids. I need to be constantly changing and learning and just not struggling in the same ways that I used to. I need to grow because of my church so that I can impact together. We can impact together the people that we are to impact. I need to grow because of my community. If I'm not a very good leader, then I need to become a better leader. Whatever I'm not good at, I just have to get better. I can't just say, oh, I'm not good at that. That's not what God does. God asks us to constantly grow. I wanted to share this today because it really has hit me lately. If you've been here a long time, you may have heard my story about my family growing up and that my parents were abusive and all that I went through. But now I'm at a place in life, and they're at a place in life where I really am in awe of who they are. I mean, they hurt me terribly, and it's not like we talked through stuff and all of that, but they're growing and they're changing. And a few weeks ago, I went, my dad is a really neat man. I never knew that. It's only been the last few years, maybe 2 years, that I knew this. My mom is not the same person. They're growing, they're changing. We didn't have to hash everything out, but it's a gift to me that they're growing and changing. The gift that we need to give to others is grow and change. Don't just keep struggling with the same old. I want to emphasize one more thing, and that is this idea of us being the church family. When you think about it, some of you have been here a long time, some of you are a shorter time, and maybe the way you look at it is, oh, I found this church, I found it on the web, I found it however, I just happened to show up, I just happened to like it, and now I'm here, and now I'm part of it. And I just want to say to you, it's actually more than that. It's actually God calling you here to CV Church, to this family. Maybe you like it. I hope you do. Maybe you like the people you're around. That's even good. But more than any of that, God called you to CV Church. And as you have been here and as you've embraced the values, the purposes of this church, this is your family now. And as a family, we have a unique contribution to make. And each one of you is important in fulfilling the call that God has on CV Church. Each one of you.